So this is going to be an in-depth Thinkorswim tutorial that really dives into just pretty much everything in the platform that you need to know. Now, if you find this really useful, like or subscribe to the video. I have a ton more Thinkorswim tutorials that I'm sure will really help you out, because this platform is so complicated and has so many features that I definitely cannot go over all of them in this video. Now, this is going to be just the home screen, and probably the screen that pops up the first time you open Thinkorswim. And really, you're not going to do much with this screen. The main tabs and areas are up here at the top. You have the monitor tab, the trade tab, and here we have the chart tab. And so this is just the basic charts tab settings, I believe. And what we can do here is, first up here, we are looking at a stock of Apple. And so this is where you put the ticker symbol in for any stock you want to look at. And right here below it, it says we are looking at a daily chart over 1 year worth of data. So every candle here is a day's worth of trading data. And then this is about showing a year's worth of trading on the stock of Apple. Over here on the right side, there are quite a few different tabs. You have the live news, we can click and add that. You have the time and sales. And so if you use all those, this is where you will find those on the side, and you can just click them on and off really easily. And then as well down here, you can see we have the volume. So if we go up here, this is the chart settings. And so this is where you will find a ton of different settings that you can customize the chart to be exactly how you want. Now, to remove this volume here, all we have to do is overlap volume and hit apply and OK. And so that you can see it prints it behind the chart. And so that can be kind of a nice way to just make the chart bigger and not have that volume take up its own space. Quickly, another big thing to get out right off the bat is studies. So this studies button up here, this is how you're going to add studies. You have quick studies, you can have add studies. This will kind of do a lot of the same things. And so this is, if you really don't know, you can just kind of look through a ton of studies. But if you have studies in mind, the best way to add them is just click on edit studies, and it will bring up kind of the more detailed way of doing that. And so this is where we can just search studies and add them to the chart. And so a quick one that I like to use a lot is the TTM squeeze. And so this is just, I can just search for it, and then it will pop up, and then it'll just double click, we'll just add it to the chart. And then if I have any settings I want to change in it, I can either right click and edit, or I can just double click and it will bring up a box for me to edit a ton of stuff in the study. So you can pretty much do this with any of the studies in the Thinkorswim platform. You can edit them and dial them into exactly how you want. And so this is just, I like the default settings on this, and I can just click apply and OK. And then that will set it up down here where I want. And then to close out of this, we can just hit OK. Now, all this indicator does is it just helps me with a trading strategy that I do. And so if you are interested in that, I will put a link in the description. The next thing we can do is actually time frames. And so once you have all your studies added that you want, you'll probably want to go to a certain time frame. And so right here is this D is just showing that we're on a daily chart right now, but this is your favorites. So if you have favorite time frames, these will just be the default time frames. So this is one right here. This is a 5-day, 15-minute chart. Each one of these candles is 15 minutes, and then it's over about 5 days. Now you can see you have now this lighter gray background and also this black background. And the difference between those is the lighter gray is the after normal market hours trading, and then the darker gray is the during hours or during normal market hours trading. You can see the difference here in the volume. The darker, or when the normal stock market trading hours are happening, there's a ton of volume. And then after hours, there's also almost barely any. And so if you don't want to look at after hours, we can go back here to settings and then go to equities. And so this is just because we're looking at stocks. If you were looking at futures or Forex, you would have to go to those tabs. But we'll just go to equities here, and then you're under here on your axis, you just click off show extended hours trading session and hit apply and OK, and you'll see that that lighter gray background goes away, and then the day change is signified by these kind of dotted vertical lines, and you can see the price will sometimes jump up because the overnight session will still have price movement happen. Now, if you want to add your own timeframes, if you want to change these timeframes, you can just go back to favorites and then customize list. And so this is where you'll just click add time frame, and you can change it to anything you want. So if you want a 10-minute chart that shows 3 days, we can just add that in, and that'll be in your favorites forever. And if you want to, you can hit apply and then go back to your favorites, and it will be there at the bottom of the list, and this will just show it there for you. Now, the last thing with timeframes and chart settings, if we go back out to a daily chart of a year, if you want to zoom in on a chart and keep it this way. So if I change here, if I've zoomed in right here, and I kind of like this setting, if I then go to change, and let's say we'll just go to Tesla, it zooms back out. And so if I want to keep that zoom, you go to settings and then time axis and keep time zoom, and then click apply and okay. And now if I go back to Apple, it'll keep that time zoom. So that's a really easy way to keep that zoom on the chart you want, but it still allows you to, if you want to just get a broader picture, you can just still zoom out to that year worth of data that the chart has. So that's really nice to be able to do. Now, another big one is drawings. And so there is a drawings tab up here, and then drawing tools. Now, I'm not going to go over all these, but a quick basic one is here we just have a trend line we can draw off the lows, and that's a drawing we can add. Now, if another quick shortcut to get to them is if anywhere on the chart you just middle click, it'll bring up drawings. And so here's just a simple price level that you can click and add as well. And you can right click on drawings. Pretty much everything in TOS is customizable. So if we just right click on a drawing, we can edit it and go through a ton of stuff here and setting up. And you can also, with a lot of things on TOS, you can save as default. So if I want to change the color, if I want to change the name that pops up, I can save a different default. And then every time I use this price level, it will be green instead of that default teal color it had. As well, right clicking on stuff, you can also just right click on the chart and it will bring up a lot of different things as well. You can just do here studies, drawings, and styles. Now, styles is just kind of a customizable thing as well. You can change your candlesticks, you can change a lot of different things, but pretty much the default for styles is kind of what you want to stay with. And then another really helpful thing as well is auto zoom. If you get in a weird zoom or anything, you can either auto zoom or auto arrange also will help you deal with issues as well. If you come across by accidentally zooming in or your chart's just zoomed in, you see nothing for no reason. Now, probably the most valuable thing about TOS is being able to save everything. And so if you have a certain study set, so let's say we have this TTM squeeze here, I'll quickly add, let's say a simple moving average, right? And so we have a couple studies on the chart that we want. And so you're not gonna wanna have to add those every time you open up a chart or a different chart. And so what we can do here is save study set. And so this is just where you can name and save everything. So we can just make this one simple squeeze and save it. And so then if we go here back to studies, you can do load study set and you can see I have a ton here, but we can find the simple squeeze. And so this is just a way I can show you a couple other ones I have. These will just be some study sets that you can quickly load in without having to change much about the chart. And so I really like to keep things really simple though, really basic. This is kind of the basic setup I have right here. I think the simpler the better. Now you can see there's some lines on the back of the chart too, these red lines and some grid lines. If you want to remove those two to make things a little more clear, we can go back to settings. And then under time axis, you can just delete all of these rollover lines, year markings, and if you hit apply, it'll remove a lot of those. Now those red vertical lines were options expiration. And then as well under appearance, this is where you can kind of change, if you want to change the colors of your candles, you can change that as well. And then just down here is the grid button, and this will remove the grid. Now, another big setting that I didn't go over yet is if we just go back to general, is snapping to drawings. And so under here, just go to OHLC, and that's open, high, low, and close. And what that means here is if we just click apply and okay, is your drawings will snap to candles a lot easier. So if I quickly show here a drawing, right, it'll quickly snap to the high. So instead of having to like struggle and try and get the exact price, you can just quickly snap to it. It'll snap to the open, to the low, to the close. And so that will make drawings really a lot easier when you're trying to match or get precise levels that you want. And once you're done, you can just clear drawing set, and that'll just delete all the drawings here on the chart that you don't want once you kind of want to reset from there. Now, once you've actually saved a study set, the next thing we can do is actually, if you want multiple charts on the same screen. And so this box up here is the grid box. And you can see once we click on that, you can go to as a ton of different charts. And these will just be blank charts right away. And so we're not going to put this many charts on, but let's just go back to having 2 charts. And so we can have 2 charts next to each other if we want to compare. So we can just put Apple here if we want to compare Google and Apple. If we want to get these charts looking the exact same, we can go to load our study set. And so here we go back to our squeeze setup. And so you can see there are still a lot of differences here between these 2 charts, right? And so we also need to go and save our style. And so our chart settings and the fact that we have the volume here and the grid patterns gone, those are our different styles. And so we'll just say, save it as the basic style name, and then we'll want to go over here and do load style, and it will just be style name. And so that's how you get these to match. And then we can zoom in and kind of compare these charts better if we want. And we can also change the time frames. Now, another useful thing is looking at the same chart, but different time frames. So if we want to quickly, instead of having to change both these to Apple or changing both of them to a Tesla and having to click multiple times, you can go here. This little gear next to the chart will allow us to link the chart. So we can go here to, let's just do red, the basic one. And so this will then both link the charts together. So all I have to do is type in 1 and it will follow everything that is linked red. So this also works for either your trade tab. So if I quickly go to the trade tab without doing too much, right next to here is also that red link. And so this will link quickly between multiple tabs in the system and allow you to easily be looking at one chart and not having to put it in at a lot of different places. Once you get done with this, you can actually save these grid setups as well. So if we click on the squares up here, you can click save as grid, and then we can save this as simple setup. And then that we can go back to that every time here. We can find it in our list. Now this just has a lot of different ones because I have a lot of different ones I look at, but that will then be in there. We can see here's that simple setup we have. So we can always change it. We can easily find it once we do simple setup. It'll just always go to that default setup there. Now, last way to save everything is this top right actually setup. You can save workspace. And so this saves everything. And so it's definitely a lot of saving that you have to do, but once you kind of have everything set up, you won't really have to do it very often and saving workspace. Now, when you actually close out of TOS, it will save the workspace for you and kind of save how you have everything set up. So when you open it again, all of this should appear how you left it, but you can lose things, or if you have different computers, you can save workspaces and share. You can share pretty much everything in TOS as well. And so that's a simple way to either open things that either some people have shared, like I have plenty of charts that I share, and then maybe if you want to transfer things between platforms or computers as well. Now, one really cool thing about this kind of grid setup here as well is, let's say we were looking at Apple, right? And we have a daily chart here, and we want to change this to a 4-hour chart over here. Now you can right click on a chart here and zoom in on the chart and be looking at one chart at a time. And so you notice up here now, the grid has kind of changed. Now we see we have 2 squares here and it's highlighted red for showing that we are on the left chart right now and we're zoomed in on that chart. And these arrows up here allow us to go between the two. Now it changed over and now we're looking at that Apple chart, but it's a 4-hour time frame. And so you can then change back and forth. You can have 6 or 7 charts here and you can quickly cycle through them. And so this is a really simple way to set up a chart system to have kind of all your favorite time frames and then quickly be able to cycle through them without having to change time frames or change any settings that you have. And then once you can also right click again and restore cells, and it will zoom back out for you. Now, once you actually have everything set up, I'm sure you'll actually want to trade a stock. And so first you can right click on a chart and buy. And so that's just going to bring up a really default way to buy shares. It'll come up as trying to buy 100 shares, and that's just the default. The better way to do it is go up here just on the price and right click and click buy. And so that'll bring up your order tool setup. And this is a really, really good setup system of way to customize everything you want. And so just going down this, you can even change it to sell if you want. You can change the number of shares. And so default going up and down is going to go by increments of 100. We can change that. If we go up to setup up here, we can go to application settings and order defaults. And so under here, under stocks, the default order increment is 100. And so every time you go up and down, it's going to be 100. So here let's just change it to 1, because now if we go back, it'll change by increments of 1. And so here we can just say we want to buy 10 shares. And then the symbol right here, this is just saying we're buying Apple shares. It's stock. There's no link or anything. And this is the price. And so this right here, this unlock means that this price is, as you can see, it's going to change with the market. If we click the lock button, it won't change, and it will try and get us filled at that exact price. If the market doesn't hit that exact price because this is a limit order, then it won't get filled. Now I have a video that I'll put a link up here about, and also in the description, that goes over order types. And as well, I have a video on advanced orders over here. I don't want to go really dive into this too much just because there is a lot here, but basic here, this is our limit order. We'll unlock it. And then you can also change the market as another really basic one, and that'll just fill at the current price no matter what. And then another simple one you want to do is day over here. And so this just means that the day order is going to be open for the rest of the day. And then once the day or trading day ends, your order is going to get canceled if it doesn't get filled. So if you want this buy order to be open for multiple days, you're going to want to click on this and go to GTC. And that means good till canceled. So that means this order is going to be open forever until it gets filled or you cancel the order. And then once you have everything set up you want, you can click confirm and send. And then this is just going to bring up an order confirmation. It's going to show your buying power effect, your max loss, your commissions. Thankfully, TDAmeritrade has gone to 0 commissions for stocks. So that's really nice. And then you can click send, or you can save, and then it will close once you send it. Now, there are also a ton of different custom order types as well that I'm not really going to go over, but I do have videos on those as well. And so Thinkorswim, again, has so many different things you can do in it, which is why it is really one of the best platforms out there. Now, if we actually go to the trade tab, now the trade tab here is really mainly for options. Again, to open up the buy shares order template, it's still going to be just that right click up there. But this is going to be down here is the options grid. Now, the first time I looked at this and didn't know what options was is very confusing, because all of it is just because it's just a ton of numbers. And I'm not going to dive into options right now, but this is just where you're going to find that options chain. Now, the next thing will be is scanning. So if you're wanting to scan for stocks, this is where we can set up a scan for making stocks. And so I'm just going to exit out of these. That's just a scan I had set up. And now to add filter over here, and you want to add stock filters a lot of the time. And a really good basic one is volume, because you want to be able to wean out the stocks that have a really low volume, so you don't pick them up in your scan and you accidentally trade a stock that only trades 100 shares a day, because if it does, you're going to have a really hard time even trading that stock. And so once you kind of have filters added and things you want to have set up, once again, you can go and save scan, and that'll allow you to load it again every time. So here they also have, if you want to go to load scan, there also is kind of some default ones that they have set up. And so you can have gap up, gap downs, and then you also have personal scans that you have set up as well. And so I'm just going to go to a quick, simple daily squeeze scan. Again, that's the indicator I like to use. And so here, this is just how I have it set up. Again, going back to those few basic stock scans here, this is where you have kind of trying to get it so it's not a penny stock and then has a good amount of volume. And then here, you can also be adding scans that are studies. And so you can be scanning for, let's say, a stock that's above a 10-day simple moving average, right? And so that's what scans like this allow you to do. And then you can also kind of add custom scans, which can be a little more complicated, but can be really powerful once you figure them out. And then once you have it all set up, you can click scan and it will bring up a ton of stocks or none based on how your scan is set up. And then once you have a scan and it's working, you're going to want to go over here and save as watch list. And we can just save this as a simple watch list. And so that'll save. And then over here on the left, go to our simple watch list. We'll have to find it here. And here is our simple watch list. And what that'll do is it'll come up here and we can detach this watch list. And what this will do is every time the scan finds a stock, it'll update this watch list. So this watch list will always be updating. And so you can just be, if you have a scan setup you like, you can just be picking stocks from this every time. And so as well here, you can see that there's this gear button here as well. And so what we can do here is you can also just pin this watch list if we want to have it just up here. If we go back to charts, we can then just go down this watch list and you can easily scan your watch list by just clicking on the stocks and it will just populate the charts here because they are all linked together. And then if we go to the trade tab as well, they are all linked as well via this chain. And so that's a really great thing about TOS is there's so many things that are customizable and interchangeable. Now, I definitely have not gone over everything about this platform. Hopefully this introduction was really helpful. And I have a ton more videos and tutorials on everything about this platform. If you're wanting to try to set up advanced OCO orders, if you're wanting to learn how to use, here we have the advanced trader tab, futures, there's so much in this platform. And so comment below if you need help or direction on any of that. And I will put as many links into videos and helpful resources below this video. And if you like this content, definitely subscribe and reach out to me with any questions you have.